Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Right now, the video I'm going to do is talking about myths about gas blowback rifles in Airsoft. Now, I thought, it's kind of like a discussion video and it's probably quite boring just to discuss myths and talk to the camera. So I've got a couple of my replicas here. So as I'm talking, I'm just going to fiddle around with them. I'm sure most people watching this video, if you play Airsoft, if you have any sort of Airsoft replica, this is not real, whether that is an AEG, HPA, gas blowback, pistol, rifle, whatever it is, you probably, if you're sitting at home, have it sitting around you somewhere nearby, if you're watching TV, whatever you're doing, and you're picking it up constantly and you are messing around with it, because that is what I find myself doing most of the time. So what I'm going to do is just go through probably about 7, I think, myths that kind of like I think I've heard from people when they've said, look, like, you play with gas blowbacks. What are you thinking? Why do you do that? I would do that because it sounds cool, but it doesn't really work in Airsoft. So I'm going to go through those myths, kind of give you my thoughts about those while I also just kind of play around with this, and I'll do a bit of dry firing as well. That kind of makes it interesting for you guys. So this, if you're wondering what it is, it's my APFG MPX K. I've got a full build video on this thing and I absolutely love it. But it's a $360 replica. I've got a completely different, I've got a Sig Sauer real stock on it, Magpul K2 Plus grip, dye-free code Tiger Claw. Yes, people say, hey, why is it facing the wrong way? It's because on this actual build, I actually like being able to grab it in that format. I have a Mod Light, real one on here, Surefire switch. I have a Surefire adapter. Surefire adapter? Yeah. Surefire adapter, I think that's what you call it. An actual Surefire pressure pad on the top here. I have a SIG tracer suppressor unit here with a tracer inside it, and I have an enlarged mag release, and then I've done a barrel inside, a hop rubber inside, and shaved the hop nub, which is something that this thing overhops every single time. People say to me, hey, does yours overhop? Is it because you've done internal upgrades to it? I'm like, no, apparently they always do. You really need to use out of the box 3.6s or heavier in these. I normally run 3.2s unless I'm playing indoors. Indoors, I find it doesn't matter as much because like the range isn't enough where the hop's coming into play. So I usually run 3.2s in this. But anyway, the first thing that I'm going to talk about is people saying gas blowbacks are too unreliable for gameplay. Now, gas blowbacks are not going to be as reliable in general as your HPA for sure, as your AEG. This is just kind of like out of the box, run of the mill. I would say reliability is something that is going to be less on those replicas for sure. You have a lot more moving parts inside. You've got, like, for instance, on here, you can see here the bolt. I should make sure this isn't going to shoot anything. Yeah, so you can see here the bolt is going back and forward, and that means that that weight is just hitting different parts. There's a lot more vibration in this thing. It can shake loose bolts, screws, different parts. Things can crack in it. So reliability wise, yes, it is going to be less reliable in general. However, it is a bit of a myth, because if you are regularly maintaining this as you would a real steel firearm, if you're changing out parts so they are actually real steel, then you aren't going to have those issues. I definitely find, for instance, with like the Tokyo Marui MWS, everything seems to work on it, other than the nozzle return spring, which eventually will break, depending on how many rounds you put through it, how rough you're being with it. So if you're getting the Tokyo Marui MWS and you know that that is going to be a point of it failing, change out the nozzle return spring. If you do that, if you are thread locking all of the actual, if you're thread locking all of the actual screws in it so they're not running loose, if you are lubricating it, if you're cleaning it, they really are not unreliable. And I think one of the great things about these are, yes, maybe technically they're less reliable. They aren't too unreliable to run. And if you do break parts in these, it is a lot easier potentially to buy a replacement bolt, to buy a replacement spring. You can change them out very quickly in the safe zone. If you're talking about like an HPA engine, or you're talking about like a gearbox, you have to literally take that apart in quite a sterile environment where you're not going to get dust, etc. in it. If it is something where you have two different replicas, you may want to bring an extra one with a bolt, and therefore you've got an extra bolt that you could switch it out with if that's the thing that goes wrong. If it snaps a BB and it gets into the trigger box, you can always open these up. Like, I'm not going to open this up just for YouTube rules, but I can remove that pin, I can open it up, I can have a look at what's going on inside. So yes, when I am going to play with it on a game day, I will always take a backup gas blowback rifle because of that fact. Another fail point obviously is the magazines. It is not as simple as having just a regular magazine from an AEG, which just has a spring that could go wrong. These do have gas seals. If you drop them, they can break. The feed lips can break a lot easier with the weight on them. So again, you need to maintain your magazines, and you probably want to have some extra ones of those because that is going to affect the performance a lot more than it is generally. But these are not too unreliable to run. They are just going to need more work. So that is myth number one. Gas blowbacks are only good for realism and not performance. Now, the main reason I run my gas blowbacks is realism. I don't necessarily need I love having recoil. I don't necessarily need it to be the same recoil as you're gonna get on a real steel firearm. It's never gonna happen. Like, you're not firing something that's explosive in here that is gonna give you that recoil. However, having that feedback and that recoil for me is awesome. I absolutely love it. And for me, it's worth giving up some other things for that. It is not necessarily going to affect the performance. Like, it's good for realism, not for performance. You can have some incredible gas blowback performance. Like, for instance, when the MWS system from Tokyo Marui came out, people were just amazed by the gas efficiency of it. And with that gas efficiency, you're getting an incredible seal, which means you're getting great range on the BBs. You're getting great consistency on the BBs. You're getting great lockback with that Z plate system. And you are also getting performance in cold weather. So in terms of performance, you really can get gas blowbacks that are performing on par, maybe not better than an HPA or a AEG. People are going to shout at me saying you're never going to get it to perform like an HPA. Well, if that's the issue, get an HPA adapter on your gas blowback and you can increase that performance. You can also adjust it. Like, if I want to take this from playing inside and I want to lower FPS to suddenly playing outside, you can very easily install an end pass in this and then just literally take it apart, take the bolt out, adjust the end pass, have more air coming through it, and that is going to mean you can actually adjust it. So if you want performance in terms of adjustability, obviously there are AEGs where you can take it out, you can adjust the spring inside it. It's a quick release spring. I know some AEGs have that now. You obviously can adjust it with an HPA. You can just adjust the PSI on the tank, but that is something that you don't have to forego if you're running green gas. You can definitely do that. The other thing you can do is you can run CO2 in here. I don't run CO2, but that is going to be another variant that some gas blowbacks are going to have. So that's something else performance-wise that you can tinker with. So that is another thing. You cannot, this is number 3, you cannot use gas blowback rifles in winter. Now, this is definitely true of some gas blowback rifles. You will go out there and you'll look at reviews, and I would definitely say if you're looking at buying a gas blowback, look at as many reviews as you possibly can, because you can change things within it, but there is something in some gas blowbacks where it can just be a manufacturing flaw where the bolt doesn't sit at the right height. It's never going to get the seal that you need to have the performance that you need in order to run it in cold weather. Now, I live in Southern California, so I don't have the cold weather issue in the same way. I don't know why I'm just holding that one. This is my, let me just go over this one quickly. This is my Guns Modify MWS system, Mark 18, which has got a Hal rail put on it. This is a Geisley Automatics kind of copy repro rail. I've got a Daniel Defense foregrip on it. I absolutely love these on M-Lock in an M-Lock situation. I have a Mark 18 Ace Tech flash hider on here, which means that I can run a suppressor on. I've got a Unity Tactical, I think this is called the hot button. So this doesn't have, like in my other ones, the Axon with like a lower pressure. This has just got an upper one. This is a Somo Gear kind of PEC box equivalent. It's not actually a PEC box. It's actually got, it's a lot squarer kind of fitting, but it does have a flashlight in it, and it does have the green laser coming out. I find I'm going to use this in the daytime, or I have it as a short light build that I will use indoors. So really, I'm not using it with my nods. With this, I don't necessarily need to have a Surefire or another flashlight on here. I've just got my flashlight and my laser all in that one place. I have a Hydra mount, which this is a repro one from what are they called? GBRs. That I love. I really like this setup. Like, I just like how it keeps everything in the center. Doesn't make this thing front heavy in any way. Real EOTech on here, which again is just amazing. I love EOTechs in general. That has a lens protector on it. I've got a Geisley charging handle on here. I've got a bad lever here, which is a PMM bad lever. So that with this, I have my bolt release, which is also there. Obviously, I can use it in the standard configuration location, but I like having it there. I have a Noveski bolt. I think that's a HAL one as well, but it's like their Noveski copy bolt. And I have a Daniel Defense stock on this. So I've kind of matched the Daniel Defense furniture, also with the Daniel Defense pistol grip. I really love how comfortable this is. Like, the shape of it is super ergonomic, fits in my hand. It's got the rubberized texture on it. And yeah, I just really like it. And that, I think, oh no, sorry, I've got a trigger box in here, which is from Toxicant. So the actual trigger pull on this, I'll try and show you here, is literally, that's the wall, and it's so light. I actually now prefer like heavier triggers, but this thing is so small. And that's another thing. You can very easily mod these. Like, I've put that trigger box in there. I could easily do it myself. I'm not really a technologically like electronics kind of guy. Don't know how to shim gears, etc. So I'm not going to be doing a lot of work to AEGs that I have. However, gas blowbacks run effectively very similar to how a real steel would. Obviously, gas mags, etc. different, but that does mean that I can tech these a lot easier than I can tech others. Also got a Magpul sling mount here, and I put a rear sling plate on here with that QD release. And that, I think, is it. I always like mess it up. I have this actually as my cable management. I can't remember who makes this, but it actually works really well, where I can just seat my thumb on there, and then I have that cable management there. Give you a little shot of this one. This is a Guns Modify, so same company, Evo Mag. They're great, really like them. I'll hold this here so you guys can see. So the kick on this is great, and it's just a really fun thing with a great rate of fire. So that's another one. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, so in the winter, you can use CO2 if you want to. You could always use an HPA adapter on one of these. Just literally a mag that goes in here with a line, and then you can just run AEG mags. So you don't have to be like, right, I've got a gas blowback, I can't use it in winter. As I said, I live in Southern California, so I don't have that issue as much, but it's definitely something that you can use. If you have a gas efficient, like the actual system is like this is the MWS system, even though it's made by Guns Modify. The gas efficiency is amazing. Again, I'll give you like a little example on this one because it just runs forever. If I put this in full auto. Like you can see there, it literally, the efficiency in terms of gas from that small mag, it just runs that bolt, runs that bolt, runs that bolt. So you aren't going to have the issues that necessarily everyone says you're going to have. This is another one I'm here to play with. My Glock 45, Elite Force, boom arms, Trigicon, boom arm slide, Trigicon, TLR8G from Streamlight, modded trigger. So this trigger is just my favorite Glock trigger. And a Talon Grips sticky plate, whatever you call it. Talon Grips grip plate, the grip sticker that I put on there. Yeah, anyway, I need to stop going through these and actually talk about what it is. CO2 is always better than green gas. Another one that I hear. CO2 can be better, I think. Like some people love running CO2 pistols. However, they can fire hot. So if you want to have that variability, CO2 is not as easy to play with. CO2 is going to be better in cold climates. Like the CO2 capsule is not going to be affected in the same way as liquid gas coming out of a can like this is going to be. So that's another thing. I don't like CO2 for a few reasons. Like one, you can't control the FPS in the same way. So a lot of people, as you say, will not be able to use a CO2 pistol at close range. I want to be able to use this at 5 foot distance. So that's, you know, something that I like. So it's a lot easier for me. The big drawback for me is not knowing how much gas is left or not being able to change it easily in the mag. If I finish a 20-minute game, I go back to the safe zone and I have CO2 capsules in my mags, I may have fired off 10, 20 shots. I don't know, should I change that CO2 cartridge, or maybe it's got enough for another mag in it. And so I'll probably risk it. And until I get the like dry fire, it's not actually cycling the bolt, I'm not going to change that CO2 cartridge. However, with this, I can say, you know what, I fired this mag a bit, I'll just top it up. And I can just put a little bit more gas inside. And that means that I know that when I go back in to that, into that field, I've got a full mag of gas. So for me, CO2 is not better than green gas. It's just never been like that. Another example for me is my XM5 build, which you may have seen. I've done a video on that. If not, go subscribe, check out the channel, where I use the CO2 mags and I use the green gas mags and I compare them. And the CO2 mags kick a lot harder. And that is something that a CO2 is going to have over green gas. Like the recoil is going to be stronger, but it's a heavy bolt, and the consistency of it in terms of FPS staying where it was at was not as good on CO2. Because the bolt was so heavy, like my first few shots were hot and they dropped off after like 15 shots. On some of them, it did not even like empty the mag, the CO2 capsule. Now that is an XM5 with a very heavy bolt, and that is not going to be the same for everything. I know a lot of people like running CO2 mags with their KCO2s, for example, but it is something to just bear in mind. The green gas for me, less recoil, but whether it's the reservoir is just bigger, it chugged through it. It would put down 2 mags worth just with one gas fill. So for me, much better green gas. And obviously it is going to depend on platform, but a big myth. People always like, oh, why don't you just run CO2? No, I don't like CO2. Gas blowbacks are too expensive to run. Now, with a AEG, with an HPA, like an AEG, you just need to buy a battery. You need to make sure you're charging that battery, so you're paying for the electricity. Obviously, batteries can break. You know, you can charge it wrong without a smart charger. If you're using a LiPo, always use a smart charger. Don't just plug it into the wall because it will catch fire and burn your house down. So definitely, you will probably need a couple of batteries, and those batteries are probably $50, $60. Like, if you're buying a good one, if it's an 11-1, if it's got a good capacity in it, it's going to be $50, $60, and they will degrade over time. So that's going to be $50, $60 times 2. Your actual magazines for that is your AEG magazines are cheaper, but if you're doing good ones, they're going to be $20, $30. And HPA, you're buying the tank, that's $150. You're buying a regulator, you're buying a line, and then you're buying AEG mags, similar kind of thing. Now with gas, the big expense is going to be these magazines. Like these magazines here, that's like a $50, $60 magazine. I think with these, it's $50, the Evos. But you are going to need a lot more of them. Like with an AEG, and an HPA, you've got 200 round mags for $20. This is going to hold 30. And so therefore, you know, you're going to need 6 of these probably at least, and probably if not 8, and maybe a few more. If they break, you know, the seals go. You need to maintain these a lot more. You need to actually lube them. You need to make sure the seals are good. You need to always keep some gas in them. And so therefore, this is going to be a bigger upfront cost, definitely. But actually running them, I think, is going to be fairly comparable. It's going to matter how much you use, your green gas. You can run them cheaper. You can go and take propane and you're paying less money. It smells awful and it's not something I do. But if you are running green gas, you can buy it in bulk. But that is going to be, on top of the others, the main running cost that is going to be constant. But I don't think necessarily it's that much more expensive because you are going to be using them less. Like you don't have a 200 round magazine, so you're not burning through 200 rounds on full auto in a game like you are in an AEG or an HPA engine. This, you've got 30 rounds. And so if you're carrying 6 mags or 8 mags maybe, you're doing single shot, or you may be doing full auto, but you're not going to be dumping or kind of having shots where you think, hey, maybe I'll make it. You are going to be conserving ammo. So you're going to use less BBs. The gas, you think, I'm going to dump a huge amount of gas, putting 200 BBs out. You're not going to be doing as much. So yes, I would say they are potentially more expensive, but I wouldn't say they're too expensive. It all depends on you and how you play, what your gameplay style is, whether you're maintaining your equipment or whether you're just kind of leaving it out. You always need to put a bit of gas in these before you store them. Otherwise, they're going to lose their gas seal, and then you're repairing them because they're leaky gas mags. If you drop these, they can break a lot easier. So, you know, if you're one of those players, it can be a lot more expensive, but it doesn't necessarily always need to be too expensive to run. Next one, number 6. You need to upgrade everything in your gas blowbacks to be usable. Not true at all. Sometimes upgrading stuff in your gas blowbacks can actually do the opposite. It can cause more issues and make them perform worse than they are out of the box. For instance, the Tokyo Maruis, like the AKM AKX, I've been told by techs, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like Tokyo Marui specifically, and I talk about them a lot, they do something special. They engineer their products to such a degree that they are going to work great out of the box. If you're buying an AEG, you know, they may not be firing at the same FPS you need for the US market, being 400. A lot of them fire below 300. But with gas blowbacks, it's going to depend on what gas you're using. And so, you know, if you're using good gas, if you're using good BBs, if it's a good quality gas blowback replica like a TMMWS and AKM, this APFG is fantastic. These guns modifies are fantastic. You are not going to have to do work to them. There are other examples of things that you will need to do work to. And I think there are some brands that you buy with a view to, this is a cheaper upfront cost, but I'm going to put a lot of money into it to make it what it needs to be. And so there are a huge amount of upgrade parts out there. You can do inner barrels, hop nubs, hop rubbers, actually different bolts, different nozzles, different recoil springs, a huge amount of different stuff. But it does not necessarily mean you have to do it out the box. Another big advantage I find is you can actually put real steel stuff on these. Like this is a real steel stock. This is a real steel pistol grip. So I don't need to fit a motor in here like I do with an AEG. I don't need to run an airline out of it like I do with an HPA. So this is actually a real steel foregrip as well. A lot of this stuff is built completely real steel spec. So you can use different things on them that actually are real, which means they're going to be more hard work. They're going to be more hard wearing than, you know, any other airsoft replica that you use. You can also buy upgrade parts which will, you know, make this out of real CNC steel, for instance. I don't necessarily feel like I need to do that, but you have got that option, but you do not need to spend money to do it. If you are thinking about it, if you're not sure, go on Reddit, go on the Gas Blowback Heavy Recoil Club on Discord. There's so much information about there with people that have used these. You know, what are the weak points? For instance, my Tokyo Marui MP7, the back plate on that can often go. So there's different hacks, different ways that you can use these replicas that will prolong their life and not make them an issue. So make sure you just read up and you get that info. Last one, drum mags or HPA adapters are essential for gas blowback rifles to keep up. I think we've kind of gone over this in other parts of this, but you definitely do not need drum mags or HPA adapters. More that is going to be to do with having higher mag capacity. If you've got a drum mag, if it's a gas drum mag, if it's an HPA adapted drum mag, you are going to hopefully get that capacity in your magazines, in your replica, that is going to rival an AEG that's firing 200 rounds in a mag, similarly with an HPA, but you don't need it. Like I would say, if you are a more experienced airsoft player who likes to pick and choose your shots, you don't necessarily need to be spamming the trigger, mag dumping. If you like the reloads, releasing the bolt. Like, I just love, you know, feeling where the bolt is held back, and then I need to actually remove the mag, do a proper reload, and then release that bolt. Like, it really, for me, makes the whole experience a lot more enjoyable. So I don't think you need those at all. I think if it depends on the gameplay style you're doing, but if you're playing milsim, you know, like you're outdoors and you are not necessarily coming into combat that much, you know, if you want realism, like an AEG really performs like an LMG in real steel. Like, box mag effectively condensed down into a little magazine that should be a 30 round AR magazine. These magazines, for instance, this one is a 30 round. This one I think is actually a 35 because it's the size of a 9mm. So they've just got a longer route there to put more BBs into it. But I like it real because of the fact that I run real gear or real sights. Like, for me, it is like that. So you don't necessarily need all of that firepower in terms of just increased mag capacity. Like, depends on your gameplay style, but I would say a lot of the more experienced players is that I find will give up that mag capacity and like ability just to, like, you know, spam a target to keep someone's head down, just to actually play a bit of a more artful, considerate game in terms of like how they play. If you've got an AEG, there's no downside to just getting a 200 round EPM mag. Like, you could just do that. I don't know why you wouldn't do that. You may want to do a 30 round more realism, but you're not going to have the same reloads. Maybe if you're running a TM NGRS, you're going to have similar to that, but it's not the same. Doesn't feel the same. So that are 7 myths, guys, that I've kind of gone through. Hopefully that's been interesting for you. Hopefully if you've thought about buying a gas blowback and those have been things that are playing on your mind, having my opinion on them and what I think has given you some value on this video. Anyway, I hope you guys are good wherever you are. If you could like, subscribe, etc., I'd really appreciate it. I will see you very soon on the next video, and I'll give you, to finish this out, just a little bit of dry fire. That's my Guns Modify MK18. That's my APFG MPX K. And that is my Elite Force Glock 45. Thank you guys so much. I will see you all soon in the next video. Goodbye.